Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Selling Greenville, your favorite real estate podcast here in Greenville, South Carolina. I'm your host as always, Stan McCune, realtor right here in Greenville, South Carolina, and you can find all of my wonderful contact information in the show notes. Should you need a realtor in Greenville or outside of Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson, Pickens, all the areas around Greenville. And I have a relocations department, so I can help you outside of Greenville as well. I've connected multiple clients over the years as they've moved out of the area or have decided not to move to Greenville with realtors outside of this area. So please let me know. And if you enjoy the content on the show, please just take that quick little second. All right, only takes a second to hit 5 stars, to like, rate, review, leave a little review, all those good things. Please do that. And the only other thing I ask is that you guys look in the show notes for Piper Insurance Group, my go-to for home, auto, and umbrella insurance. They are our show's sponsor, this episode's sponsor, and the sponsor of the show. They can help you with all of your insurance needs in South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia. Again, for those personal lines, home, auto, and umbrella. They can help you on fix and flips, commercial, ground up new construction, all of those good things. And they're independent, so they're not just tied down to one insurance carrier versus another. They can help you out and quote a bunch of different ones, okay? And make sure that you get the best possible coverage. So please reach out to them today for a free quote. They will be able to hook you up. Their contact information is in the show notes. All right, so with all of the intrigue surrounding what's going on in the market, right? That's probably the most common question that I get, particularly for people that are outside of this area that are looking at moving to Greenville. We look at the meta stats, right? Every month I'm showing you guys what's happening in the greater Greenville area, but that's not necessarily reflective of what's happening in every little sub pocket. Now, we have some data actually that breaks it down per area. And then, of course, we could really get into the weeds and look at specific neighborhoods in order to try to figure out what's happening. Because here's what happens, right? When we get the stats from the Greater Greenville Association of Realtors, it tells you what's happening. I mean, all the different areas I just described, right? Greater Greenville area includes some of Spartanburg. Even though Spartanburg has their own MLS, a lot of Spartanburg ends up getting listed in Greenville MLS, ends up getting lumped into that data. Even though the western part of the upstate has their own MLS, a lot of that ends up getting into Greenville as well. So we've got, listings in Pickens County and Spartanburg County and Anderson County, even Oconee County, Greenwood County, so forth and so on. All of these counties, in addition to Greenville County, get lumped into that data. And so when you see median prices going up, median prices going down, that's not necessarily reflective of every single part of the upstate, right? Some parts are still seeing home values continue to go up. Some markets are seeing home values come down. And then when you take all of that data together, what we're having is year-on-year median price declines for 5 months in a row. We've already talked about all of that, but today I want to get into specific areas. So what we're going to do is we're going to take specific areas in the multiple listing service that have seen dramatic increases in recent years or dramatic decreases in recent years in terms of the median price point. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 5 that are going up and 5 that are going down, and I'll show you exactly where these areas are, because the MLS, the multiple listing service, has specific little areas that are pocketed all around Greenville, and they assign them numbers, but they're not necessarily intuitive. But if you're on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, I highly recommend you do that. You'll be able to see very clearly. If you're listening, I'll try to explain to you guys what data we're actually looking at here. So I'm just going to go ahead, for those watching on YouTube, you will get a nice little screen share here. And here we go. We're looking at, and if you're a realtor, we're looking at area 31 in the Greenville MLS. And you can see here, now this is a rolling, when it shows the historical median sales price. I'm going to explain this real quick to those watching, okay? The brown line is this area 31 in the multiple listing service. The gray line is all of Greenville MLS. And then what this is it's a rolling 12-month calculation. So what happens with median prices when you segment out very specific areas, you have wild fluctuations. Like you might have one month where the median is like 175,000, and then the next month is like 400,000 for the exact same area. And so in order to kind of smooth out that data, what the Greater Greenville Association of Realtors has done for us is they've taken, for each month, they're going back 12 months and aggregating all of that data together in order to get us something that's not seeing insane fluctuations, but that's just showing us, okay, in a 12-month average, what's happening. So if the average is going up, that means in general that specific submarket is appreciating. The average is going down, that submarket is depreciating. What I saw when I went through this data, because there's obviously, we're only going through 10 of these, there's a whole lot more than that. And a whole lot of the data is kind of following what you see in the gray line, the all MLS line. Again, for those not watching on YouTube, basically that line just flat lines, right? And it's, you can kind of see it's kind of tailed off just a little bit at the end here, but it's basically been flat for the past year-ish, okay? That's what I found for the majority of the markets, but there were a handful of markets that had very clear progressions of going up, which isn't quite appreciation. It's not a one-to-one. Just because we see prices going up doesn't inherently mean that market's appreciating, but this is the best metric we have for tracking that. So for all intents and purposes, we're going to call that these submarkets that are going up in price, we're going to call those appreciating markets. Don't shoot me for that. And if they're going down, we're going to call those depreciating markets. Again, that's a little bit simplistic, but it's close enough, okay? For the purposes of this podcast, and for the purposes of you kind of analyzing what's happening in the market, it's close enough. And particularly if the trends are consistent, right? So we're looking at Area 31, and this one is one of the least dramatics out of all of them, but you can see a very clear increase up to the current median sales price, which is $590,500. And you can see the rolling 12-month average. Even though it's definitely slowed down the past year, you can see that it has continued to go up. Now, what is Area 31? All right, so here's where I'm going to actually go into Paragon, which is the software that runs our multiple listing service, and I'm going to actually show you on the map what this area is. I'm gonna tell people basically what it is. And the simplest way to think of this is that it's essentially the Roper Mountain Road corridor once you get east of Interstate 85 and Interstate 385. Or to think of it another way, it's kind of northern Five Forks / the southernmost tip of Greer, right? And this is all basically north of Woodruff Road. So we've got the Woodruff Road is kind of the southern border. 385 and 85 form the western and northern borders, and then the eastern border is basically the Enoree, or as some people pronounce it around here, the Honoree River. And so basically the northern Five Forks, very, very southern Greer area is kind of what we're looking at here. So this is the market. This northern Five Forks, southern Greer market has seen some steady appreciation in the past several years. It has slowed down quite a bit, but still showing that upward trend, upward trajectory. And so if you're looking at the Five Forks area, just know that that's still one of the markets that's still hot compared to some of the other markets here in Greenville. And obviously you can see it's way more expensive than the all MLS trend line, which is way below it. All right, moving on. Again, if you're looking on YouTube now, you're going to see two markets side by side. That's just what my screen share is unfortunately showing for you, but we're going to start with the one on the left. This is Area 53, okay? Area 53, we'll actually go back and before I get into the details, I'll actually describe for you guys, because I think for those listening, it'll be helpful if I describe the area I'm talking about before we get into the numbers. This is the area that is southwest of 185. You can kind of consider it to be the western Piedmont area, Wren School District, all of kind of that area. Basically, right around where Interstate 85 kind of cuts down west of Piedmont and that general area. And so that's kind of what we're looking at. It includes some of Powdersville, but but more south of Powdersville. Okay, if you're looking at a map. So what that area is seeing is really seeing some really strong appreciation, in particular since 2023, and the trend line keeps going up. So the median sales price for January was only $252,500, but if you look at the 12-month median, it's above $400,000. And so this is an area that Piedmont Powdersville Wren School District, that's an award-winning school district that you hear a lot of people talking about. That's an area that's really hot. In fact, I had a listing in that area, just got under contract. It had a lot of activity, and so I can say from personal experience, this is an area that is really seeing some strong growth. And for a long time, it was kind of following the Greenville all MLS trend line, and then just after 2023, it just kind of took off. What's happening there? Well, again, you've got, anytime there's a school district that people like, that obviously drives things. A lot of people are looking for more space to spread out. There's bigger lots down here. I just referenced one of my listings, had several acres with it, a house on several acres down there. Fewer restrictions, fewer HOAs, a lot of things that are attractive to people. And that's what's driving a lot of people there. So that's a market that is going up. Let's look at, I keep flipping over to the wrong side here. If you're watching on YouTube, you get to see all my juicy little screenshots if you want to pause that. I have no idea what's in all that. It's mostly screenshots from random things that I had to look at, and who knows? I don't know. Let me know if there's anything scandalous in there for those of you that care. Okay, this next area that we're looking at, Area 62 in Greenville MLS. This is the northwestern region of Greenville County, okay? The part of Greenville County that goes up from Travelers Rest all the way up to the Cliffs Valley and then west towards Caesar's Head and Table Rock before it becomes, I think before it becomes Pickens County. Let me just check one thing. It might include a little bit of Pickens County. No, I don't think it does. I think that this is mostly a Greenville County a Greenville County area here. So this includes Slater, Marietta, Cleveland, Caesar's Head, all of that kind of stuff. So the northwestern portion of Greenville County. What are we seeing here? Again, we're seeing, this is another area that follows a similar trend line to the one that we just looked at down in that Wren School District, but it would be for very different reasons. This area has completely taken off. The 12-month median, the 12-month rolling median has gone from, in 2023, it started the year at 300,000, and now it's in the 450 range, okay? And it's kind of plateaued a little bit in that 450 range, but in recent months, we're starting to see a V-shaped curve that would indicate that maybe it's going to keep taking off. And again, why are people moving up there? People love Travelers Rest for the Swamp Rabbit Trail, for the outdoorsy culture. They love going even further north. You get into the mountains up there. So, if you're looking on this map, I mean, once you get into that Slater Marietta area, you're seeing some really gorgeous mountain views. You're seeing some really great areas to hike and to bike. A lot of little parks out there. A lot less light pollution if you're, into things like watching planets and stars, all that kind of stuff. Not something I'm necessarily into, but I appreciate the lack of light pollution. And so that's what we have here. And the most recent median sales price for this area was $530,000, which is a huge jump from last January, which was $325,000. But again, this data is noisy. We're not seeing 63% appreciation in that area year on year. That's just, like I said, noisy data. All it takes is one crazy month where $1 million home sells, and we've got here a sample size for this entire area. Let's see here. There were only 270 homes that, not technically 270 that sold, but 270 that are in the range that I pulled here in MLS. So all it takes is a handful of really, really expensive homes in 1 month. Because if I go back here, I'll tell you exactly for this area how many homes sold the past month. It's going to take me a second. Sold past month. last month. 15 homes sold. So, and let's see what the average was for that. The average of the 15 homes that sold the past month was 470. The median was 485. The high was 1,099,000, or sorry, the high was 1,030,000. So you can see that $1 million listing is really pumping up the average. And then as far as the median, we've got several above 500,000 that are pumping up the median. And so this is how this data can kind of work on a month-to-month basis. And this is why, I'm not drawing massive conclusions from those, but we want to look at that 12-month trend line. It went way, way, way up in 2023 into 2024, and it has tried to come down, but it's still continuing to go up. So that upper northwestern Greenville County area, hot area right now, according to this data. All right, we've got area 65 is next. Let's pull that one up in Paragon. Area 65. Area 65. This is an area that encompasses basically Pickens and Anderson County, but doesn't go all the way down to Anderson City. Okay, so this is from Clemson and something. Hold on, let me look at one thing here real quick. Want to make sure I don't have any other. I might have some filter. That last filter I did may have messed things up here, so just bear with me 1 second as I try to. I'm just gonna close this out. I'm just gonna clear and just start over here, because I don't want you guys to have anything that is inaccurate. All right, sorry about that. Area 65. Here we go. This is more what I was looking for. Okay, so this area basically down from Clemson all the way up to the top of Pickens County, up towards Table Rock State Park, basically where Pickens County goes all the way up to the North Carolina border. This includes parts of West Easley. This includes parts of Eastern Kiowee. All of that general area. It's a huge region, to be completely honest. This is one that the trend line has been very consistent. The data, the charts going back to really all the way back to 2016. There's been steady appreciation in this area, and then it really starts to increase after the pandemic. And again, this area super duper hot during COVID. Right, and the heat hasn't slowed down. This is again rural, right? What's the theme of this episode? The areas that are appreciating are some of the most rural areas of the upstate, and in this case, not even Greenville County. And the trend line has continued. There was a little bit of a fallback lately, but then it's continued to go back up. So far in January 2025, with the median sales price of $430,500, people are wanting to live in rural areas, okay? That's a very, very important thing for understanding the market in the upstate of South Carolina. If you're wanting to have land, if you're wanting to farm, if you're wanting no restrictions, if you're wanting to be out in the middle of nowhere, you've got competition, okay? These are the areas that are seeing some of the greatest appreciation in all of the upstate of South Carolina. So definitely keep that in mind. Okay, Area 76 is the next one that we've got. And this will be our final appreciating market that we're looking at here. And this is also the first one that isn't rural. This is basically right downtown Greenville. Okay, that's the simplest way to think about it. It includes some of West Greenville. It includes Sterling, Greater Sullivan areas. It includes some of the areas, just outside of downtown, a little bit of what I would kind of consider to be more Overbrook, but for the most part, this is pretty much downtown Greenville is what we're looking at when it comes to Area 76, and that one it's a very interesting trend line for this one, okay? You see very, very minimal appreciation. So since 2020, that historical 12-month rolling average was around 400,000, and then it got up to, maybe 550, then it got up to 600, then it dropped again. It dropped a little bit into right around 500, and now, the past half year, it has skyrocketed and is now in the 800s, okay, for the 12-month rolling median for this. And so, again, a lot of this has to do with just the homes that are available in downtown Greenville. They're expensive, right? No big shocker there. I mean, let's look at what is, I don't want to mess around with this with this more than I already have because I messed it up before. But if I showed you what's active right now, it's a lot of very, very expensive homes, okay? And so what this is telling me is that out of every area of the upstate, what are the areas that are hurting? And of course, we're going to be looking at the areas that are hurting from an appreciation, from a median price point standpoint. It's the suburbs, right? You've got the most rural areas and the most urban areas of Greenville are seeing trend lines that are shooting up. Where are the areas that are getting hammered right now in terms of prices? It's the suburban areas of Greenville and the surrounding counties. So let's go ahead and talk about that. What are the areas that are struggling? We're going to start with Area 11. Where is Area 11? Area 11 is the Paris Mountain State Park, Furman-ish area. This basically comes down to Rutherford Road is kind of like the southern border, in case you're wondering, with 276 as the western border, and then you've got, essentially, I guess East Mountain Creek Road as the eastern border. So basically just all around Paris Mountain State Park. And that's the only state park in South Carolina, in Greenville rather, in case you're wondering. And it's generally a nice area, but it's an area that's not doing too well when it comes to the median price point. We are down at levels where we were in 2022 in terms of that 12-month rolling average. It had gotten up to the low 400,000s, but now it's back down, hovering close to 300,000. And so I find that to be very interesting. And what I think happened is that area, again, these are now the suburban areas that we're looking at. I think that area is kind of stuck in no man's land, right? You've got Travelers Rest to the north, you've got downtown Greenville to the south, and not necessarily, most of that area doesn't have immediate accessibility to, things like the Swamp Rabbit Trail. Yeah, Paris Mountain is great, but it's not a free park. It can be kind of expensive to get in there. My family, we all just went there recently, and it's almost $20 for a family of 4 to enter into Paris Mountain State Park. So there's not always inherently a good reason to go there or to live in that area. It's also a very odd area, right? There's very expensive homes. There's very cheap homes. It kind of depends on where you go. It doesn't have a firm identity that some of these other areas have. So that area is seeing things. Now we're starting to see the beginnings of maybe a little bit of that V shape go back up in the price point. But in general, the trend line's been going down since 2024. So that's an area to keep an eye on for sure. Next up is Area 12. Area 12 in Greenville MLS. This is the similar to one of the areas that we looked at before. I can't remember exactly which one, but this is now going to be Travelers Rest proper, and then the northeastern part of Greenville County that continues all the way up towards the North Carolina border, including the Cliffs Valley, including Tigerville, Locust Hill, and Highland, and some of those areas. And so what's happening in Area 12? Area 12 topped out in early 2024 and has just been coming down since. It's very interesting because it has a very consistent trend line up. I mean, there was this stretch from 2021 until the middle of 2023 when it kind of plateaued, kind of flatlined, and then all of a sudden saw this big boon and then just came right back down. And so it maxed out over 500,000 at one point. Now we're hovering below 450. for the 12-month rolling median. And so again, what's interesting about this area is that most of this area is more rural, okay? But this area includes downtown Travelers Rest. Guess what happened? Downtown Travelers Rest has kind of gotten tapped out, okay? From the standpoint of people being able to afford what's there, and for it to actually make financial sense for a lot of people, those prices kind of reached a point where it's just like, all right, that's it. That's the most we can pay. And, again, if people want really, really rural, this area is not as rural as that northwestern part of the state that we talked about. There's not as much hiking, right? We're further away from Caesar's Head. We're further away from Table Rock. We're further away from Jonesville Gap. We're further away from some of these other areas that are really popular for those that enjoy that outdoorsy lifestyle. So even though it's beautiful up there, you get those mountain views and everything. There's some lakes in the area and all of that. It doesn't have all of those options that people are looking for, and there's not as much new construction as well, which I think is playing a role in those numbers. All right, let's look at Area 30 next. Another area where the trend line is going down on the median prices. And by the way, in case you're looking on YouTube, and you'll see sometimes that there are some little bubbles that are indicating where these areas are that are like not even close to any of the others, that's a realtor that didn't know what they were doing. Okay, let's just call it what it is. And that always happens. In fact, there are some listings that show up that locate themselves in China in the multiple listing service, because there are realtors that don't realize that they need to verify the address when they enter it, verify that it's mapping correctly, and things will map to China if you don't verify it correctly. What's the area that we're looking at here? Area 30. This is the area that includes basically the Midtown, Greenville, down to Malden area, in between 276 and 385. So it's a really simple thing to think about. If you're looking at, you know how there's that downtown airport, small airport, mostly prop planes, sometimes private jets go into that near Haywood Road. There's that great little runway park where you can take your kids and they can watch the planes. And it's a whole airplane themed park. That's really cool. So it's basically just east of that and just continuing south, like I said, with the western border being Lawrence Road 276 and the eastern border being 385, and it crosses over Interstate 85 and continues down towards the eastern portion of Malden / northern portion of Simpsonville. Okay, so that's the area that we're talking about here. And this is an area that has had the same thing. It peaked in 2023, around 400,000, and now it's come back down to less than 350,000 for this 12-month rolling median, and it's really plateaued there. It's been there for almost, for over half a year at this point. And so that's just an area that's struggling to punch up, and I've seen this firsthand. Okay, I saw the homes that sold in this area in 2023 at that top price point, and I've been seeing those prices coming down. So this is a very real thing. This isn't a whole lot of, well, there's this explanation, this factor, and these things. No. This is just a market that has gotten hit. And you know what I think? A lot of these are production built homes. Production built homes are not the popular thing right now, right? If you go to county council meetings, people are just hating on the builders that do the production built homes. But that's a product for first time home buyers. And guess what? First time home buyers are getting crushed right now. There's not a lot of them in the market. The average first time home buyer now is 38 years old. 38. And so you've got all of these Gen Zers that can't buy. You've got even millennials that can't buy their first home. It's insane. So that's what's happening. Again, I said the suburbs are where we're seeing a lot of the worst data, and this is one of the classic examples, because this is a very desirable area, right? That whole corridor, a very, very desirable corridor, but it doesn't matter because of these other factors. All right, let's look at Area 40. we're almost at the end here. Some of you are on pins and needles wondering if your area is going to end up being one of the depreciating areas. Will it be? Will it be? Possibly, because the next one is now basically just the exact same area, but west, right? If you hop over 276 or Lawrence Road and get into that Gower, Parkins Mill area, or continue to the west side of Malden, that is the area that we're looking at now. South and east of Nicholtown, east of Pleasant Valley, east and north of Magnolia Acres and Conisty, but including downtown Malden. Although downtown Malden itself is very commercial, there's not really a whole lot of residential in downtown, but you know what I'm saying, kind of that general area. That's the area that we're looking at here in Area 40. And Area 40 topped out in the mid 300s in 2024 and has just come down since then. Now it's in the low threes, and it's come down pretty sharply. And again, it's the same thing that I just described. Now, there's not as much production built homes in this area because it does include areas like Gower, areas like Parkins Mill, some of the Pleasantburg corridor before it crosses over Interstate 85. But there's a lot of cheap housing in that area as well. And again, it's not including, all the expensive housing on Ferris Road and some of the things going on there. And so that's a really unique area in general. And prices, they really started to skyrocket in 2022. And then they peaked in 23, came down, peaked again in 24, and now have come back down again to levels that we haven't seen since 2022, is where they've been sitting for the past several months. And according to the 12-month median. And so again, just that general area of Greenville County, right? If we're looking at it, you might consider it kind of the mid-eastern portion of Greenville County, just southeast of downtown Greenville, is an area that's seeing prices that are coming down, not as dramatically as the last one we just looked at, but still coming down in a measurable and tangible way. All right, last but not least is Area 73. Where's Area 73? Area 73 now includes that area that we just talked about, the Ferris Road corridor, the Pleasant Valley area, the area around Southside High. You've got, let's see here. Let's see if there are some other identifying factors around here. It's not including areas like Deneen or Judson. It kind of stops at 185/Mills Avenue. It stops at Interstate 85 on the south. It stops at Augusta Street on the east. And so it's a nice little triangle section there that most people will think of this as the Ferris Road slash Pleasant Valley slash. It's also where the Prisma Hospital is, and obviously that's the biggest hospital in Greenville County. I think it's the biggest. It's definitely the one that people tend to frequent when they have issues. Okay, we'll just put it that way. I'm not going to create a hospital war here because we also had the Bon Secours Hospital as well, St. Francis, a little bit north of there. Also a good option too. They're kind of two different things. We're not going to talk about that right now. Okay, so what's going on in this little triangle of an area over there by Prisma Health, Pleasant Valley, Ferris Road, all of that. This area really, really took off and had really been bouncing around for a while, right? If you're looking at the trend line, back in 2015, it was in the low 300s, and it basically stayed there until 2021. It started to get up into the high 300s. 2022, it started to get up into the 400s, then it dropped back down. And then in the middle of 2023, it just took off, right? It just took off, almost hit 600,000 at one point. And since then, it's just been coming down, and now it's sitting right around 500,000 for that 12-month median. And so this is an area that is definitely, to me, particularly when you get into the Pleasant Valley area, it's feeling tapped out. And, obviously the area around Prisma Health, Ferris Road, there's some very nice housing up there. there's not enough to swing these numbers, because when you've got Pleasant Valley, what ended up happening in Pleasant Valley, in my opinion, a lot of flippers came in and did kind of a shoddy job of flipping a ton of houses there over the years. And now what do we have? We have these homes. People were buying these homes up after they were freshly flipped. Well, a poor flip job after after the person who bought it, the first person who bought it after the flip, lives in it, then they try to sell it off. The wear and tear just doesn't do well on these poor flip jobs. And so that ends up, we had so many flips in Pleasant Valley the past 10 years. Now they're starting to change hands. And that's my personal opinion on what's happening in that area and why we're starting to see some of the numbers fall. And yes, there are some really nice houses in this area, but it's just not enough to buoy the prices the way you might like to see it. Now, that being said, where it is right now is still sitting comfortably above where it has been historically, but it seems like once it hit that 600,000, that was just way too sharp of an incline. I don't know all that happened there. Maybe some new construction played a role in that. It's hard to say, but that market is showing some sharp declines in some of this data as well. So I hope you guys found that interesting. That's something you can go back and look at. If there was something, maybe you were listening and you're like, okay, there was something in there that I'd like to take a closer look at. Great opportunity. You don't have to watch the whole thing on YouTube. Just skip to the part on YouTube that interested you the most, and just watch that. And then you'll be able to actually see this data, because there's a lot of interesting stuff in this data that I didn't even go over with you guys, but those could be some Easter eggs for you YouTube watchers. So thank you guys for watching and listening. My contact info in the show notes, Piper's contact information in the show notes. Like, rate, review, subscribe. We will talk again next time.